Good morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News Review, where we rate articles essential, important, and optional. Please follow along. The articles are at gaiinsights.com/articles. Today, I have John, Tim, and Ankash, and I'm sure Paul will pop in a little bit. So let's proceed. We have a nice set of different articles today. Let's proceed to the first one. Ankash, please.
Sure, Luda. So the first one that we have for today talks about context engineering and how it fits into the big picture of LLM applications.
Yes. John, what did you think about this article? It kind of reinventing and suggesting a new term for software development in the age of Gen AI.
Yeah, I thought, look, I generally like the stuff out of O'Reilly Media. It's usually a very nice combination of creative and as well as grounded. This notion of, the kind of, well, just to give you the punchline. I was on the board between optional and important. I liked it in terms of laying out what some of the issues are, everything from model selection and routing to user interaction and user interface flows. There's certainly some new design. Well, I don't know how new, but anyway, some design issues here about how do you create control of context when you have user interaction, and when you have a probabilistic system. I feel like these are things that you have to go back to things like object-oriented programming, which worried about a lot of these similar things. But nobody's going back to any of that thinking, as far as I can tell. So I think he lays out a series of important issues. This notion of context engineering seems to be getting traction. I don't think there's a lot actionable here, but I thought it was a nice kind of compendium. So I was on the fence between optional and important.
Okay. Tim, what did you think? You are a software developer and you've gone through all of this. What do you think? You're on mute. Tim, you're on mute. All right, let's have Tim. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we can't. Very faint. Can't hear. Very faint.
Technology.
Tim.
Oh, right, because I forgot about my. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay, I'm a technologist. Can you tell?
Yes.
I thought this was pretty good. I would give it an important, as it's a little dweeby down in the weeds to a certain extent for software development, but it does, as John said, make several important points. And I was just having this conversation with a group yesterday about where do we get started, and I said, well, first you need an idea. And second, you need to tell how you've accomplished that idea. Those are the primary issues you need in any problem. What's the problem, and can I tell if I've solved it? And a lot of the struggles that I see with LLMs are right there, that either they really haven't defined a problem or they don't know how to evaluate if they've solved the problem. And those are different challenges here. And this article addresses a little bit of both of those, more on the latter than the former, but at least starts to address, you need to be able to evaluate these things. And then it talks about software architecture and how you might go about doing some of that stuff. So I think it's important.
Yeah, I liked the software architecture. In the regular software development, you have to think about it. Here, LLMs being quite powerful without that, it's coming back saying, look, you have to kind of dress up the LLM to make sure that it does what you want it to do and does it like you can scale it. So that was an important point. Yeah. Paul, what did you think?
Yep, and a big difference between production and promotion, if you will, PR or demos or parlor tricks, whatever you want to call them, is all the stuff that's in here. So that's the most important thing about it. Is you really want to get in production, you do have to address all of these things, like logging all the prompts and keeping versions and doing stuff like that, which a lot of people don't do. And the danger of LLMs, the more powerful the tool, the easier it is to create parlor tricks. It's really easy to write like a sonnet about my firm's offsite, ask it to write a poem about my firm's offsite. It's really hard to write a consistently good application that works for a lot of people.
Yeah, and with vibe codings especially, you can create a good prototype, but how do you go production? And Ashish is certainly agreeing with what we are saying. Okay, Ankash, we are going important. What did you think?
Important for me as well, Luda. I think the way it describes how context needs to transfer between enterprise workflows from one system to another. I think that's a very important takeaway. So important for that particular piece.
Okay, Paul, agree?
Yeah, I actually want to amplify a little what Tim said. I mean, we're seeing it on our own software development here. I mean, the written problem statement, and I call it the exit criteria, what has done this, is really, really important here. And there's such enthusiasm that we are really run past the doneness of the exit criteria. And this whole notion that you can solve the problem, many problems, with better context and prompts and stuff, is a very different thinking I'm seeing. So, I still don't see enough software developers thinking that a way to solve a problem is with better prompts. And I think it's only going to get better over time here. So thinking that you have to change the model, not the prompt, is the wrong default. How?
Yeah, I think there's not enough conversation about what are the ideas in the architecture. I mean, if you go back to Alan's stuff, Alan Kay on object-oriented programming, right? His notion was, they're message passing entities that have local data encapsulation, state protection, and extreme late binding, right? Those are kind of 4 principles. And this stuff is much more, I think, about, system design, emergent behavior, and, user involvement. So those are 2 different design paradigms that I like Alan's better for lots of reasons. But anyway, I think we need some good thinking as to what are the core ideas here. That's not what this article is about, but we need it.
I think it's evolving, John, and I think the software developers from the past coming in saying, "Hey, we need to think about this," right? And they're coming up with this.
Yeah. What worries me is it's extending the bureaucratic thinking as opposed to thinking about organic thinking, and I think organic thinking is a better place to start.
That's true. Yeah, this is addressing a different layer.
Yeah,
but it is a good, whether you do object-oriented programming or of the Allen style or not, you still have to deal with versioning, you still have to deal with deployment, you still have to deal with guardrails. All those issues are real. How you deal with them is different, and you're right. There's not much written about that, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah. Okay. Important it is. Let's proceed, Ankash, please.
Sure, Luda. So the next one comes from Anthropic, and they have piloted Claude for Chrome.
Yeah. So it's really a solicitation for developers who are willing to open up to a test trial here, knowing that there's probably quite a bit of ransomware coming in, and they're prone for attacks. So they want to test it, want to test the environment. What did you think about this, Ankash?
Luda, I think this is an optional news, but an important topic. So we have been discussing about browser-based agents and then the graphic user interface-based agents, and Anthropic shows here what can be the vulnerabilities in browser-based agents and how they have mitigated them. So I think it's a very important topic for discussion, because I feel browser-based agents will be one of the prominent form of use of agents going forward. So making sure about the security of these is essential. But from an announcement perspective, I think it's an optional news.
Yeah. Okay. Optional from Ankash. The trending is very important. Tim, what did you think?
Yeah, I agree. Optional for me, and a little bit ironic perhaps today that Anthropic is all concerned about security of this new feature when they just got a real security problem, which I think we're going to talk about later in their fundamental product. And we read an article just the other day that was unclear you can ever secure a browser, and I kind of agree. It's going to be really hard. So it's an important topic, but this is a product announcement. It's not even really a product announcement. It's a solicitation for beta testers.
Okay. Going optional. John?
Optional.
Optional. Paul?
Very optional.
Okay. Optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one comes from the Allen Institute and talks about ESTA, accelerating science through trustworthy agentic AI.
So Tim, you got that. You're all science here, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you're in the research industry in general, across industries, not so the research competence, let's call it, then this is this is probably essential because they've done a lot of work here. It's open source. It's the Allen Institute, I think, right? And so it's pretty interesting. Outside of research, this is probably optional. So it's another one of these bifurcated things. It's very interesting. They tend to do good work. It's hard to evaluate it. It's a nice product announcement. They have a lot of nice quotes from researchers. It's a good framework, it seems like to me, which really could advance scientific research. So if you're in that field, really, really important. Outside of that field, it's pretty specific. So it doesn't have much applicability.
Okay, so optional. From Tim, I was more on an important side because I think we have a lot of companies who still have R&D departments, and that might be really important for them. John, what did you think? You're on mute.
Definitely important for me for the reasons you just said. I love the Allen Institute folks. This whole notion of upskilling through open source, and they're truly open, and these are important things. As we were talking about the other day, I think that the new knowledge discovery and what it does to educate. You talk about the really amplifying effects of generative AI and AI. It's going to be on scientific discovery and education, and on the bad side, indoctrination. But this is the power zone of the real impact of Gen AI and economics in society. And God love the Allen Institute, so I give it important.
Yeah. Okay, Paul, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely important here. And I think one of the things we're starting to see is, are we moving to a world where we used to have a human PhD at Moderna do research 40 hours a week, and now we're moving to one PhD and 50 robots, and the 50 robots are doing research 24 hours a day, crunching through things here. So this amplification of exploring things, I think, is a scalability we've never seen before on the edge of new knowledge testing and creation. So
yeah, Paul, I actually think it's going to look more like high-end trading, and high-end trading is a group of 3 to 6 people with tons of robots.
Great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's 1 to 3 and 500 robots. Yeah, I think that's better because it's a little more multidisciplinary. But the notion that trading, though, at least for research, is going 24 hours a day, and maybe you got to staff your humans, 2 teams to keep up with the robots and keep them guiding.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about science and research is it's got a truth function that most people agree on, and so and it's usually very compatible with mathematics. And those 2 things together means it's going to take off at a totally different speed.
Yeah, so going important, Ankash, they also did a very good job thinking about the architecture of the agents, of the verifying the Asta bench, and then giving all kinds of tools to actually put software components to put their research projects together much faster. So it's a very very well thought through framework. So we're going important, Ankash, okay?
Yes, Luda, important for me as well.
All right, important as well. Okay, great. Important it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, next one is a research paper which is titled Canaries in the Coal Mine, 6 Facts about the Recent Employment Effects of Artificial Intelligence.
Well, it seems like this one is very data-oriented. How about this one, John?
Absolutely essential, no question. This is, look, I want to kiss Eric after doing this thing and his co-authors, although Eric's got a beard. Anyway, look, this is a fantastic article. It is incredibly rigorous. They've taken millions of data points from ADP, looked at and then used a empirically derived measure of the impact of AI on a job from the work of the folks at Anthropic, and put those 2 things together and done a fantastic analysis of what then taken jobs and put them into 5 quintiles. And so for each of the quintiles, what's happening in terms of employment, and they find a 12 to 13 point difference in terms of entry level jobs, as first couple of years of the job, for folks who are in the high impact of the AI area. So if you go back to our wins framework, basically tasks that are wins intensive are getting affected, and you're seeing a massive drop off, and they do a fantastic job of controlling for effects at the company level, effects at the economy level, and then also even put in other possible explanations around hangover effects from COVID and so forth. This is a rigorous study, beautifully done. It's written with a tone, with a really scientific tone, and they don't not extensive in their claims beyond what they can really prove with the statistics. And this is a huge impact. This is saying that, look, entry-level jobs in the areas of that are highly affected by AI, more automated than augmented, it's got a big impact right now, even in the early innings, first 2 years. So this absolutely essential read, beautifully done piece of research. Gotta love them.
Yeah, and they talk about other groups of employees that are not affected, and especially in the where AI can be augmenting the work versus automating the work. So it's also goes into that quite a bit. So important paper, essential to read. Tim?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I think the only thing that I would add is it's still very early days. So I think everything John said is correct. The only thing I would add is 2 years from now, things could look very different. And we just don't know. So it's just early. I think this is correct. I think this is certainly a trend right now. But the alternative hypotheses that aren't considered are, well, what if it doesn't work out quite the way people think? So they're making actions. I think, for instance, in customer service, it's been pretty well proven, because if the robots make a lot of mistakes, it doesn't matter that much. And in fact, the evidence so far is people like the robots better anyway, because they're faster and more convenient. In software development, that's not so clear. And it is, I have seen some stories already, anecdotal, where people are starting to say, hey, maybe we made a mistake. And, it really isn't that good at replacing junior programmers. It's really good at amplifying senior programmers and junior programmers. And we need those junior programmers. So we'll see how this all works out.
Yeah,
and then the third
but to be
parameter
fair,
is
they make that. I mean, the paper does not. The paper is very modest in its claims and cognizant.
It is. I agree. Yep, I agree. I'm just highlighting it for the viewing audience to keep in mind things like this. And so this is a good point in time sample. As you said, it's very well done research. So I think it's a great paper, and I think it's an essential read. I just think, and the other question is, how quickly will adjustments be made? So again, I can make an analogy to back in the days when high-level languages were first invented. People who were experts in machine programming, the level below that, were suddenly out of work overnight, because there was now these higher level languages. And if you didn't know them, you were in a lot of trouble. But computer science degrees rapidly accumulated experience and training in those new skills, and people with those new skills got hired quickly. So I think there may be a similar thing here as well, but it's a good, not clear, and it's a good message to the academics of the world that, you need to reorient your curriculums to get people into the right places.
Yeah, so Luda, let me make the case for double optional. So I think this is a fantastic essential read for policymakers, for academics. I think it's 100% optional for AI leaders whose careers on the line of driving GenAI projects and their teams here. They should not be worrying about what's going on in society. They should be worrying about attracting, retaining the best talent and driving huge value out of this. And I've got 10 or 15 AI leaders I think about all the time. I don't want to forward this to any of them. I don't want any of them reading this.
Well, Paul, I kind of agree with you, but disagree. They do need to think about the mixture of their labor force. Think about a software SaaS company that is adjusting for AI. And
I totally agree on a mix with humans and robots. Yeah, I just don't know if this paper is worth reading it for that. Anyway, I'm in the minority here. I'm just making my case.
Yeah, Paul, but if I'm a leader, I got to understand what's happening in the talent market. And every single AI leader I talk to wants to know what its impact is on employment. This is the first rigorous study that talks about that.
But who cares? If I'm an AI leader, who cares if unemployment's 3%?
Yes, if I think about, okay, well,
I mean, the CEO does. I think it does. He does.
And what's going to happen with, where am I going to get my talent? What's the demand for software programmers? I want to understand that stuff if I'm an AI leader.
You might want to go, Paul, you might want to go contrary to what it says, actually. And as Vivek is saying, wouldn't the new guys be way better at AI and bring some of them in to train the robots, right? So it's
we're talking about the trends and the inputs. So, do we also have every article that talks about the cost of computing being an essential read here? It's going to be whatever you need here.
In the meetings where the state of the market is now, every single AI leader we talk to wants to know, is it going to automate, augment, it's going to decrease labor? I mean, they're not asking about the cost of computing. They're asking about this.
Okay. All right. Let's ask Ankash. Ankash, what did you think?
Luda, I was essential on this one, so I'm with John on this one.
All right, Paul, you're certainly in the minority.
I'm in the minority, yes. Appreciate Evalda. Thank you for jumping in.
Thanks for venturing your opinion here. Absolutely. But essential it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one comes from A16Z, and it's their 5th edition of Top 100 GenAI Consumer Apps.
Yeah, so what they do, they monitor the traffic. And as a result, they can tell which ones are the apps that are in the top 50, which ones are on mobile in the top 50. They can also see what's different from the prior status that they do, I think, quarterly or something. The last one was in March. Yeah. So this is the top 50. I have to admit that I didn't know some of them, so I need to go research them. And they also note certain things like Gemini split their products, so now you can track them by traffic, and several of them are in the top 50. So this is a very cool status type of article. I rated it as essential. So what did you think about this, John?
Yeah, essential as well. So, you never know if A16Z is talking their book or whatever, but I think, this notion of monitoring the traffic, having this market map, understanding, mobile, I think is a great call out. So essential read.
Yeah, they talk about also the vibe coding. So the vendors like Lovable and Replit were not visible on the top 50, and now they're quite represented, and they're pulling in a lot of other companies like Superbase, the database that sits underneath Lovable, and the traffic it's not on the maps, but the traffic for those startups is essentially going up dramatically. So an interesting, again, Paul will say super triple optional.
No, this one I'm very essential. I think it's critical for the AI leader to understand what's going on in the B2C market, because it's adopting so much faster than the B2B market. So understanding trends there. I also think the B2B or B2C use cases, once they get really moving, are a great way to get evangelists and executives online, because you can show them and they can actually go try some of these things here. And Luda, was like yourself, I'm looking at this. There's 6 or 7 of these I've never heard of. So
yeah, I need to go research. You're right. Okay, great. Tim, we're going essential, okay?
I wouldn't rate this essential, but I don't like these kind of articles. I think they're too flaky. I mean, the fact that Claude is 7th makes no sense to me. So there's some real gaps in the data here. So I understand the argument, and people should probably get their eyes on it, but I'm not sure how valuable
I was surprised with Perplexity being so low on the mobile.
But Tim, this is China.
And the Chinese, they talk about Chinese.
No, the China. One up top, the first one they did. All the rankings they did had Claude pretty low. And I think it's things like, they get a lot of their traffic through Amazon. They don't count that traffic probably. So where does it, so it's okay. I won't argue that hard. I probably wouldn't give it an essential myself.
But in the first one, in the first chart, Perplexity is number 6, which is not shabby, but it's Grok has gotten up there and DeepSeek. So
right, and I think Grok is overstated because a lot of people get there through Twitter, which has an enormous base. Maybe that's not overstated. It depends what you're measuring.
exactly.
So yeah, but just my opinion.
Okay, all right. Ankash, going essential. Okay,
Essential it is. Yeah.
all right. Essential it is. Let's proceed.
Okay. The next one talks about the era of AI generated ransomware.
Yeah, this is quite a sort of rude awakening, even though we know this article. And Tim, what did you think about this?
I think this is important for people to read. I guess I could be argued into essential because you should be aware of this stuff if you're not already. And they mentioned what just happened, came out yesterday, where Claude's model was used, the coding model in particular, to break into a lot of companies with people they believe are not particularly adept at slinging code. And so, yeah, that's what you get. When you put nuclear weapons in the hands of cavemen, it doesn't generally go well.
Yeah. But the end result at the end of the article, it seems like we don't know how to deal with this yet. And
there is no way to deal with it, in my opinion. This is the fundamental problem we have with technologies. We just adopt the technology without consideration. And there are ways to deal with this, but maybe not. It's unclear. It's a research problem is the real problem.
Yeah.
But the one thing is for sure, the commercial companies aren't going to deal with it because it's very expensive, because it would probably require re-engineering these products from the bottom up and putting a security layer in right at the bottom, just as we never did for the internet. And all the people who created the internet, if you go back and ask them, will say, if there's one mistake we made, it was not putting in an initial security layer at the base.
Yep, exactly.
And you try and retrofit it, and it doesn't work very well. And that's why the internet has lots of problems with security.
So, yeah. Okay. All right. So important from Tim. Ankash, you're on mute. Ankash, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, Luda. I was having StreamYard troubles. Yeah. So important for me as well, Luda. I think every leader needs to know about this increasing threat of cyber crimes done through generative AI channels.
Yeah, except they can't do much about it. So,
I feel like it a bit like I feel about certain kinds of genetic testing, where they can tell if you've got this problem, but they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why do it?
You don't even want to know it.
So, Paul, you're very adamant. What do you say? You say optional, huh?
No. I think this is important, and particularly around the forwardability. Here, we've seen some marketing articles before. We said the AI leader absolutely needs to forward this to the CMO, and I think this is one that absolutely needs to be forwarded to the CISO to make sure that's at least on their radar screens, because everyone's learning, everyone's overwhelmed, and we continue to find everyone in key positions are still missing some key information articles out there.
Yeah,
it's important.
So, John, going important. Agree?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Important it is. So, as Ankash is preparing the scorecard, any announcements? Paul, John, Tim?
Luda, give us an update on the event, the Woodstock event you guys had.
Oh, this was splendid. Women came out, I think, out of woodwork. It was 350 people registered. All the time
Wow.
buzzing. So at any moment in time of those 2 hours, there was maybe 150 people standing, chatting. The noise I lost my voice. So it just was unbelievable. And yeah, I think there's a movement here. There's really a need for networking, for sharing, for learning together. So we'll see how this evolves. But I really think that we're onto something.
Luda, congratulations. I know you've been really a leadership on that here. And I agree with you, the movement. So that's on the Women in AI, which we've now seen going for a year and a half. We're also in our conference doing celebrating Black pioneers in AI, and had our call this week with the steering committee on that. And that's also another community that's very concerned about having AI just miss them again. And there's a lot of it. So I think this kind of community-centric
Absolutely.
gathering and learning together in this age of AI is a really important trend.
But Paul, remember where the women's stuff started? It's from the breakfast last year.
Yeah.
So right, this is at your conference, at our conference. So I think it's very important to, and I didn't want to pick up the flag. I did sort of reluctantly, and I think we'll have to push it. We have women from Colombia coming in October, the whole delegation of them. They started something, but they want to go global. They want to work with us and educate women in Colombia. I mean, you.
Yeah. No, and Ludov, you know that last year when people were asking to do Women AI breakfast, I went and asked 10 women. 9 to 10 women thought it was a great idea. One thought it was a horrible idea. And I think that's really moved a lot. I think the big announcement today, or the announcement is on noon today at noon Eastern. We're doing a webinar walking through the key findings of our new Q3 Corporate Buyer's Guide.
Yes, please join. And it's in the link is in yesterday's, and I'll put it in the new one today, in the newsletter. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben.